Hello, my name is Zachariah Van Sliders with Old Man Gaming. With me is,
Knight 645, aka Logan.
and this is a horrible podcast, episode 2, Against All Odds. That's not the name of the episode. It's just Against All Odds that we got this together. But before we get into anything else, I'm going to go into the normal disclaimers. Neither me nor Logan get paid to do this. So you could hear things in the background. You might notice that I'm extremely tired. Um, either way, we're not going to go back and edit it and correct it because we don't do this professionally. So keep that in mind as you listen. One other thing before we get started today. I really want to consider some interesting fan outreach segments. And one thing I've always wanted to do is I think it's super interesting, the story behind people and players' gamer tags and screen names when they're playing. So, do you have an interesting story about your gamer tag? Is it a normal crappy story about your gamer tag? Whatever it is, please comment in the section below with it, and I'll read it out on the next show or shows following, depending on how many submissions we get. But I've always wanted to do something like this, and hopefully the fans out there can provide us with some interesting tidbits. All right. So, with our second episode, the first topic we want to talk about is video games that have come out that have been less than good. Some would even call them failures right off the bat, and they have stuck around, hung in there, and clawed their ways back to successes. Um, so, we're talking about games like No Man's Sky, For Honor, other ones like that. What do you think about this, Logan?
Well, I'm thinking to start it off. I think you missed the biggest one. The biggest comeback of all time was Fortnite. Fortnite started off with their survival game mode, which was just trash. It's terrible. Like, nobody plays it. It's not fun to play with. And that's really what Fortnite was.
It was.
That's what it was meant to be.
And there was a lot of hype around that, too. And then when...
Exactly.
I mean, in fairness, that didn't even come out of beta until well after it had become popular with the Battle Royale part. But still, it was out there and you could pay for it.
And it was terrible. And then the company just threw a wild ball just out in the left field, just hoping for the best. And they ended up hitting a home run out of it.
I mean, they did. And as far as money goes, I think you're 100% right. They are now. I mean, if you're just talking about revenue, about how much they made when they first started to how much they're making now, I think that's the biggest success story. But if we're talking about critical acclaim, I think that I would disagree with you. I think that the biggest success story is going to be No Man's Sky. And I am a No Man's Sky player, and that game came out, and not only was it not up to expectations, it wasn't good, and it didn't even make on some of the promises that Sean Murray had put forth. So not only did this game come off terrible, but it actually made him look like a really bad guy. And if you're looking back at like something back at back when this first came out, to now, he actually has kind of turned it around and made himself look like a genius. They're now releasing their biggest update to date, and they're making some of the biggest money that they've ever made. And the game is actually good. Like I said, coming from a guy who actually owns it and enjoys it. I mean, it's not everybody's cup of tea, but...
Well, that's for every game. Every game's going to have their followers and people that hate on them.
But they have stuck around and just kept adding to it. And now, critically, everybody he's kind of turned around because they didn't just hate that game. They hated that dude, you know? For them to just stick around and to bring that game back, I feel like the people at Anthem should just call him up on the phone and get him in that studio.
I really respect companies that do that. They really stick with their game. Yes. And they want what's best for the game.
Well, and if you're talking about companies that stick with the game, we have to mention Ubisoft, which is, I as much as you mentioned Titanfall, I'm going to mention Ubisoft. I absolutely love the way they stick with it. For Honor was a disaster when it came out. It was written off as dead, and now it's still around, and it's still popular, and it's actually a great game. Same with actually Rainbow Six Siege, which I think is right up there with your success stories. It did not come out to fanfare. I think everybody can agree with that. I also wanted to talk about and get your point of view on another part of this, though, something that's a little bit more disturbing. With these kind of success stories, everybody's upset with games not coming out finished, games coming out in a bad condition, games coming out buggy, games coming out not quite ready. I feel like this is more incentive for companies to do that. Like, if you can watch these companies come out with games that are nearly unplayable, that are written off, and then watch them become success stories, become successful games, what is the point of releasing a game fully finished right off the bat when you can just say, hey, in a year or two it'll be great. Look at these other games that did it. You know what I mean? Does that get people to stick around to wait because they've watched other people do it? And is that okay? Is that something that we should be all right with?
I feel like in terms of that, like, yes, we should be upset with the companies, but really we should be upset with ourselves as gamers. As gamers, we've proven to them that they can do this, and that's okay. That we will still give them our money.
Right. Right.
And so they're still making money, and they did almost half the work.
Yeah.
And then they can just finish on that later.
Well, and it's something else. It's something else that's disturbing, that we almost give those developers more props because they turned it around. Why aren't we giving the games props that come out in a working condition that everybody's happy with right off the bat? But it seems like those come out and it's like, well, that's the way it's supposed to be. But then when a game comes out in a terrible condition and they turn around, it's like, look at that spirited willpower. Why didn't they just put it off for 6 months and bring it out in the right condition,
At the same time, are we asking too much as gamers? Like, I brought up to you a while back, Black Ops 1. It had, like, 8 maps on the multiplayer. It had just very simplistic mechanics. It was very simple. It was really ahead for its time, but it was simple.
Yeah.
And we loved it. Yeah. They gave us a DLC every 2 to 3 months with, like, a map or two and a very few details involved on it. But now we ask for constant updates. We ask for new things just constantly, and I don't think that they can really keep up with it. No, so they feel like giving us half the game now, and then continually giving us pieces of the game. It's giving us wink on wink new stuff that we'll be happy.
Well, and I've got a couple of other takes on it. Another take is there's also a whole level of the hype train. The hype train that we have now was not the same when we had Xbox One and Halo. You know what I mean? Now, the minute we hear about it, we want it. And I think it puts this unbearable pressure on the game designers. And they probably think, well, let's just give them it in this state. We'll fix it later. And let's just get the money we can get now, I will say, I think sometimes as gamers we are a little too unrealistic from the standpoint of what games are now compared to what they were before. I hear a lot of comparisons to when a game was on Super Nintendo or a game was even on Xbox, it would just come out and it'd be great, and it was a very different ball game. Those games were 200, 300 KB, the cartridges were nothing even compared to that. Now you're talking about games that get $3 billion in development funds that have literally hundreds of hours of game time. How do you even play test for that? How do you have playtesters playtest that enough to find it, to find all the bugs, when you have that much content right off the bat?
Yeah, I definitely agree.
I almost feel like the day one patch should be expected with the size and quality of the games that we're getting.
So, do you think that people should do what Apex Legends did and props on their part for just keeping it silent until it comes out.
I personally don't want complete and total silence, but I like, and I think a lot of companies are going that way. I like the few months before. I don't want to hear about a game 2 or 3 years before it releases. I don't, because I want that game when I hear about it, and I don't want to think about it for 3 years, you know? And not even just from a standpoint of instant gratification or satisfaction, but from a standpoint of I'm going to build that game in my head in those 3 years. So when it comes out, if it's not what I want it to be, I'm going to think it's terrible. It only hurts games. I think what Gearbox has done recently with Borderlands, they showed it at E3, or not E3, PAX East, and that was like 6 months ago?
Yep.
It's coming out next month.
And they dropped the DLC for the other Borderlands.
Right. They did give us a lot of content for the previous game, which was nice. They also gave us the Game of the Year edition of the original Borderlands. But Bethesda does the same thing. You hear about the game, and then it releases. Usually, I know that they teased Elder Scrolls 6 and Starfield way early, but that's kind of uncharacteristic for them. Fallout 4 was released 6 months after it was announced. Officially, anyway. I mean, you know they're working on it, but I would rather have that. I really would, because I just, A, I don't want to wait that long for the game. I'd rather not know it existed. And B, I don't want to have my expectations get too high that they're just totally destroyed. You know?
I agree.
Okay.
I completely agree.
All right. With that, you wanted to talk to us a little bit about the new Anthem update. Speaking of games coming back from the dead, so we're gonna move on to that.
So Anthem, Zach, we talk a lot about Anthem, and I mean a lot. And it's usually not good things. It's a really beautiful game, and it's one of those games that you want to love.
You want to.
And the developers obviously haven't given up on it because they dropped another update. And this update was the biggest update so far. They added, I believe, 9 new guns. They added a new stronghold. And they added this more to the Cataclysm or whatever.
So you got to play it. And I have already traded in my copy like the cranky old man that I am. What do you think? Is it enough? Is it back on the right track? Should I go run out and get another copy of Anthem? I'm not going to do that, but should I?
This game's dead. As I'm playing it, all I could see is laziness. It made me upset while I was playing because the new guns, are pretty cool. They're pretty cool, except for they're not good. So you're gonna end up using the old guns anyways.
Nice.
They added in a new melee weapon, so each person has 2 different melee weapons that they can use. That's cool.
I like that.
So that's okay. That was okay.
All right.
I didn't mind that, except for it feels like they're basically giving up on their game because in the patch notes they raised the ability to get gold weapons, like the loot chance.
Right.
So my first game on, I got a gold or a grandmaster, I guess, melee weapon right off the bat. Crap. And
they have been criticized for their loot scheme, though. I mean, maybe they're overreacting to it one way. I mean, personally, I think the game is dead just because even though they keep telling us it's not, they keep silently moving developers off of it onto other projects, and I think that's a bad sign.
So I'll give you my whole review of it in 3 steps here.
Okay.
Because this is the 3 things that I actually know 4 but the first one's going to be quick. First one, the menu screen where you walk around in Fort Tarsus, you still walk so slow. They haven't fixed that at all.
Oh, come on,
Fort Tarsus is still
easy.
terrible.
Just speed up the walking. How hard could that be?
That's what I'm saying. It's just lazy.
Good God. People have been bitching about that since the demo before it came out.
But they added a new area to it. They added a new area.
So there's even more space you have to slowly walk through.
Yeah.
Oh, that's frustrating. That's just so frustrating.
Then, second thing, I tried out the Cataclysm. The Cataclysm is just boring. So you fly around to 4 different spots and just do the exact same thing that you would normally do in every single other part of the game. Nothing different whatsoever. And but it was a little bit difficult. I'll give him that. At least it was a little bit difficult. It kept me busy for a little bit.
I mean, was there any difference to like the world events or anything, or is it the same old stuff?
No, it's the exact same. I'll get to that. I'll get to the open world.
Sorry. Didn't mean to rush.
So the whole Cataclysm was pretty much just BS. I could easily throw that together, and it's just a bunch of world events. It's full of world events that they just put into a thing and called it a Cataclysm. That's all it is.
That's terrible. Then they, and they didn't promise that. They promised sweeping changes to the way you interact with the map.
Yeah. Except for there's a boss fight at the end of the Cataclysm.
Okay.
That it's a little bit different. I thought that was pretty cool. Like at least that's something new, a new boss.
Right.
But that's only for a limited time. The Cataclysm is ending in 2.5 days, which I don't know why they're ending it or what they're gonna do with it.
Well, they had said that they were gonna rotate the Cataclysms on and off. And with the story of the game, that makes sense. But at this point, why would you restrict any content when you're having such a hard time keeping people in the game because of your lack of content? Why would you put out any, even though that's what you said in the beginning, I feel like this is a good time to walk that back and say, hey, whatever we do that's new, you can play it whenever,
Yes. And so then... But I was happy with the matchmaking on that. It was really fast matchmaking for that one.
Okay.
Then we go on to the second one, which is the new Stronghold. The new Stronghold, it took me close to 3 minutes to find a party of 4 for it.
Wow.
And
now, is this the Sunken Stronghold or a one in addition to that?
It's the Sunken Stronghold.
I actually played that before that was the last thing I played before, because that came out before the Cataclysm. I actually played that before I took the game back and traded it in, and I was not impressed.
So that one, I felt like it was a little bit fun to do, because it was this open world, this open mission type of deal, but the thing and they added in a new enemy, which was those like bear-looking things. Except for the only thing that they did to make they made 3 of them. They made one, they made the Elite, and then they made a Brute Elite. And they're all the exact same thing, except for with a different name.
Yep.
They're all the same size. They're all the same,
which is
with a different name.
That was their problem with the guns. They all look exactly the same. You know what I mean? With different names. Yeah. I mean, that's the big problem, is they're just rolling out. It's the same stuff over and over again.
Oh, and that brings me to my last one for the Stronghold. I get to the end, and I was like, okay, this is okay. I didn't have a bad time playing this.
Okay.
And I got to the end, and the main boss, I thought, I'm in a giant water area. This entire mission has been about like an ocean.
Yep.
I mean, I'm surrounded by water. In my head, I'm thinking this is going to be like a shark, or this is going to be something like a giant crab, or something cool like that. No, it was a rework of the same exact thing that we've been fighting.
The fucking Fury.
But it's bigger.
Just a giant Fury. Yep.
But it's bigger.
I mean, I loved the visuals in it. I loved the swirling water parting and you fighting it in that arena. That was cool. But then you walk out this hey, let's just make this other enemy that we had giant. Frustrating. So frustrating.
And he didn't even have any. He barely had a different moveset. He had the same moveset as all the other Furies.
Yeah. I remember that too. Yeah, I played it once, and I was like, well, that's not enough for me to keep it, and I immediately took it to GameStop.
And he wasn't even that strong. I honestly feel like he was just a bullet sponge. I got bored. You just shoot him, and then as long as you keep running to the right, he's not going to hit you.
Right. That was a problem with a lot of their enemies, is they're just kind of bullet sponges. Well,
here, shoot at this thing.
That is unfortunate that it does not look like Anthem is going to be going the way of the other games we've talked about. However, this just points out again EA's inability to understand how to stick with a game. I mean,
yes.
It's the same thing with Mass Effect Andromeda, and I know everybody hated that game. And I didn't hate it when it came out. I know that it was buggy, but I actually liked the story, and I actually liked the way it played. But they just quit on it. They quit on it. They even hyped up DLC that we never got because they just quit on it. EA quits on things immediately. And it just doesn't make sense to me, especially when they watch one of their biggest competitors, Ubisoft, year after year come out with a game that is considered subpar at release and then turn it into a money-making machine. Rainbow Six Siege is a factory for money now. I mean, I'm sure For Honor is not doing as well as it, but it is doing well. So I don't understand how they think dropping billions of dollars into a game and then immediately quitting on it before they make anything on it is a good idea. It's just stupid to me. It's terrible.
They're a very bad company, and I refuse to buy their games at this point.
Yeah. Actually, after Anthem, I'm done with EA for a while. I talked about that. Even with BioWare, I mean, obviously we haven't talked about it on the podcast, but I'm kind of done with BioWare too. I think that both companies have completely lost touch with their player base. They've lost touch with the people who want to play their games, and I don't need sports games. So, sorry EA, you're out of luck as far as I'm concerned. Okay, well, moving on. All right. Our next topic, and I thought this would be kind of like a fun one. Basically, who is winning 2019? And you can take any of the games that have come out this year or any of the games that are going to come out this year. And there's some doozies. I mean, Borderlands 3 is coming out. The Outer Worlds is coming out. And you've got some ones that have come out. I mean, obviously, Anthem's in the running, right?
Anthem's already won. Anthem has won everything.
Anthem has won all of the awards. Anthem has won all the awards. That's why they had one guy at E3 sadly doing interviews in a backstage area. Okay, so in all seriousness, who do you think's winning, Logan? Who do you think's gonna win? I mean, is it gonna be Call of Duty again? I mean, they're always the money makers, but who do you think? Yes?
Call of Duty won.
Oh, God.
Call of Duty won.
Okay, all right.
I think that sports games are going to make exactly what they're going to make almost every year.
Yeah, they always do. I mean, and they're never really in the Game of the Year discussion anyway.
Exactly. But like we talked about the whole campaign and stuff, how you thought it was all nihilist and it's terrible and stuff. Well, I'm really into that stuff, and a lot of people are.
They are.
Like you look at Modern Warfare 2 and Modern Warfare 3, they blew up.
Do you really think that's because of the campaign, though? You don't think that's because of the multiplayer?
Well, I think it's because of the full game as it is.
Okay.
But if it was committed, because with Modern Warfare 3, I remember playing the hell out of that. Because they had the campaign was perfect, the special ops was perfect, the multiplayer was perfect, and that's the same thing with Modern Warfare 2. And so, with both of those being as great as it was, I think that it's going to beat the last 4 Black Ops games easily.
Okay.
Like, we look at those Black Ops games in a row, those ones were like the Black Ops. And you had Advanced Warfare, you had Infinity Warfare, you had all this stuff. Even Black Ops 4, they all had advanced movement, they all had this new edge stuff.
Yeah.
And nobody liked it.
No, they
don't. Well, this one is backed up by some superpowers. We had Modern Warfare 2 and Modern Warfare 3. Oh, everyone's going to come get this thing.
Well, I won't be coming to get this thing. I'll tell you that right now. I don't know how much of a rant you want me to get into about the campaigns of Modern Warfare, and I don't know how much I want to get into it in the second episode, because I'd like our viewers to not immediately stop listening to this and unsubscribe. However, I do agree that they're going to win the money. They always win the money. That's it.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they're rarely anymore in the Game of the Year discussion for any of the, the Game Awards or IGN or any of the big places, but they're going to win the money. They always win They won the money on Infinite Warfare, which I don't know a person who wasn't upset about that game.
Oh, it's a joke.
And it outsold everything that year. So
yeah,
it's like they've got it on a lock. I will say, I personally think their annualized strategy, which they have come out and said straight up that is going to be the way it is forever, is a bad idea. I do think interest in this is going to start to wane. And I think, personally, I know you're going to disagree with this, but going to the Modern Warfare well was a bad idea. They are remaking a game that many people, not me, but most people of the genre, think is perfect. When you remake perfection, you fail. Not to bring movies into this, but Lion King has showed us that recently.
Lion King messed up. That's why.
That's the thing. You can't remake perfection. And they are literally taking a game that most people consider perfect, and they're saying, we're going to remake it. You can't do that. They're going back to the well too many times because they're out of ideas, because they bring one of these fucking things out every year. Assassin's Creed couldn't keep that up either. And guess what happened?
Oh, yeah, Assassin's Creed died.
Yeah, and when it died off, what happened? They came back, and now they're a top-selling game that's in Game of the Year discussions. Assassin's Creed Odyssey, I didn't much care for it, but it was on everybody. It was nominated with everybody's list for Game of the Year. That thing is still selling copies. You can't release these things yearly, especially since, from what I understand, they shut down one of the studios that do it. The three rotating studios, either Sledgehammer or Treyarch, isn't going to be making them anymore. So there's that too. But still, I agree. It's going to make the money, especially since they're using an old name. But I still think that they're playing this card too many times. People are going to get upset with it.
I fully agree. Except for, wouldn't you if you're making that money?
I mean, yes, I think that there's something to be said about looking at it's the same thing with EA. Like, look at the people and what they're saying about your company. Your goodwill is only going to go so long. And you can only say, fuck it, they're going to buy it anyway, so many times, because eventually they will stop buying it.
At the same time, the one thing that I gotta give Call of Duty props for, and it might be because I'm a huge Zombies fan, but
Zombies is still good.
Their storyline,
I will even admit that,
amazing.
Zombies is still good.
They're still keeping that going.
Still fun.
And I would buy that game just for the Zombies, period.
I would buy the Zombies game by itself, straight up.
Yeah.
Definitely. Okay, so aside from that, that's the moneymaker, and we're not getting into the super argument about whether the campaigns are good or not, or if anybody cares about them, which I don't think they really do. But who's going to win it critically? What's going to be the game of the year? Critically. Who do you think's going to win it critically? Because that's the one people really care about.
See, critically, that's a really tough decision, because last year it was Red Dead Redemption, and I honestly didn't think Red Dead deserved it.
I'm gonna stop you right now. Red Dead Redemption did not win all the awards. God of War did. Red Dead got nominated. Red Dead got nominated in every category, and God of War won it. Like, Red Dead won all the awards other than Game of the Year, but every one of the Game of the Years went to God of War, which I completely disagree with that bullshit. I disagree with you. I think Red Dead did deserve it, but aside from that, it didn't win.
Who would win? I honestly don't know. I have no idea. I think that it's going to catch a lot of people by surprise, because there's a lot of great games out this year.
There is. I agree with that.
And I definitely think it's going to catch us off by surprise. It could be another game like Apex Legends that just jumps out of nowhere.
This is true. I personally think it's going to be Borderlands 3.
I could definitely see that happening. It has a huge fan base.
It has a huge fan base. People have been waiting for this game forever. They have not released a thing that has dissuaded my love for the game at all. I will say that they have some controversy around them right now. They've definitely taken some interesting stances with their voice acting and with what they're doing to some of the YouTube people out there. And I still think that fucking game is going to be on everybody's list at the end. I don't think it's going to dissuade anybody from going to buy that game. That game is the game. The game.
I still think I don't think Borderlands will win Game of the Year though. I'm sorry to say it, but I don't think it will just because it doesn't really have the casual gamer. Like, yes, their fan base is huge and they are dedicated. They really are.
You don't think Borderlands has the casual gamer?
Well, I don't think that it has the casual gamer's attention. I really don't.
I don't know if I agree with that. I don't know if I don't. There's not enough evidence for me to fight you, but I don't know if I agree with that. I don't know anybody who isn't at least excited about that game, and I know almost all my friends are old, sad dudes who are very casual gamers who play in the basement while their wife and child are asleep, like a ninja. So like. And they're all excited about Borderlands 3, so I don't know if I can completely get on board with that. I think time will tell on that, but that's an interesting point of view. I mean, honestly, I was going to say it was going to actually overthrow Call of Duty for money, with the exception of the fact that they have so much controversy on them. I think that's going to hurt them a little bit when it comes to people's wallets. And I think somebody, like Randy Pitchford, thank you for a lot of great games over the years. Shut the fuck up, dude. Every time you open your mouth, you hurt your stock, bro. I mean, I love you. You make some great games, and I love listening to an interview with you, but man, just, giving Troy Baker the kick and the original Claptrap voice the kick, and then kind of not even apologizing for it, just like treating him like crap when they were like, hey, why didn't you even ask us? And then this whole YouTuber thing, like, he hurts himself sometimes. Okay.
That's for sure.
So you're saying it's not going to be Borderlands. You got to at least give me a prediction then. You have to go on record with something. That's not fair.
Okay.
You can't leave me hanging in the wind.
At least a prediction? I think I can't say this for a fact because I don't know when like the votes have to be in by or anything like that.
Right.
But if Halo comes out in time, Halo's gonna be it.
Ooh.
Halo's gonna be it.
Halo doesn't come out till next year. Pretty sure.
No, I thought it was like a month after the voting had to be in. But yeah, if it came out early or something like that, I would 100% go with Halo.
I think Halo is fall next year, bro. I think.
Jeez.
I think. Because I think it's slated as a release title with Scarlet, whatever Scarlet is going to end up being, I think. They have said it's going to be on Xbox One too, but I'm pretty sure it's going to be like next year. If that was this year, that would definitely be in the discussion for me too. I 100%, especially since I personally think what you're saying is right about the whole Halo thing. I'm sorry, about the whole Ninja thing. And I think that's just going to like put it over the top.
It's going to get the streamers.
So, again, you've copped me out. What's your prediction, man?
I honestly don't have a prediction.
Oh, you're a son of a bitch. I'm over here making predictions, and you're going to just sit there? Oh, my God.
I'm sorry. I just don't have one.
I'm hurt. I'm hurt, Logan. I'm hurt. Now I'm over here, standing here, naughty bits in the wind, and you're just giggling in a corner. I'm going to remember this. I'm going to remember this.
Pretty much, yeah.
Don't agree with that. Oh, my God. Okay, I just want to also send a call out. I'm looking for a new co-host. Okay, all right. Lastly, we moved to Fantasy Corner. We had a lot of fun with this last week. So we decided to keep this going as our end segment so that we can end on a happy note and not be mad at each other for hanging out our co-hosts to dry. So this week's Fantasy Corner, going with the theme of the show, what dead game or franchise would you bring back, and how would you bring it back to a modern audience? Now, this game has to be something that has not been announced that there is a sequel or it's coming back, and it has to have not been announced for quite a while. Like, there has to be nothing in the works and probably nothing coming. So, start us off, Logan. What are you picking?
Titanfall.
Oh, there it is, ladies and gentlemen. We were close to getting through the show without a Titanfall mention from Logan, but there it is. Okay, Titanfall. What's the third one look like?
The third one looks exactly like the first one. Titanfall 1 was a masterpiece. It had very little things. It had a lot less than Titanfall 2. But Titanfall 2 was just made, I don't know, to succumb to the average gamer, to the person that gets on and wants to see these cool things happen, these graphics and all this. It really came to them instead of, like, their hardcore fan base. And Titanfall 1, they made the Titans so strong, and I loved it. You got into one of those things, and you were just a monster. And in Titanfall 2, they really downgraded. Like, you're still really strong as a Titan, but you're not even close to as strong as you were in Titanfall 1. So I feel like if they went back to that genre, that would be a better play.
Okay.
And if they wanted to come out with a third one, though, they have to keep the movement. They didn't change the movement almost at all from Titanfall 1 to Titanfall 2. Almost at all. They changed it a little bit with the speed, but besides that, they didn't change almost anything, movement-wise.
Okay.
So they would have to keep that feel of this is Titanfall and this is what you are playing, not changing it up too much.
Okay.
And really, that's what they need. Just keep what they're doing right now, make a third one, add little things in, and we'd be happy with it.
So, is it linear like the second one? Are we getting just a straight storyline for the campaign, or are we just going back to the multiplayer roots? Are we doing some crazy open world nonsense?
So Titanfall 1 did not have a campaign.
Right.
So in Titanfall 3, if they didn't have a campaign, I don't think anybody would really hate it.
Okay.
But at the same time, in Titanfall 2, the campaign was a huge success.
I was about to say, I think that some people would be upset if there wasn't one, just with how amazing, like how much people loved that campaign.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So if they didn't have like enough workers to really get that done, I don't think like too many people wouldn't buy the game because they didn't have a campaign. But then they would have to add in like other things, obviously, to overlook that.
Right.
But if they did have a campaign, I would definitely want it to follow the second one, obviously.
Okay.
And follow that whole work.
So a linear based kind of mission feel to it.
Yes.
Okay. All right. That's fair. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, I've put a lot of fucking thought into this. And I've got two of them. I know this is my cheat. Like, you wouldn't pick earlier. I'm gonna cheat and have two. The reason I have two.
Forgive you.
The reason I'm gonna have two is the one I'm gonna mention is super obscure, and possibly nobody's heard about it. So I wanted something a little bit more upbeat and fun for people to actually know of. And of course, Max Payne is the one that everybody knows about. There's nothing in the works for Max Payne since 3, when Rockstar kind of took it from Sam Lake and made a third one. And the third one was good. I personally would have rather had Sam Lake making the third one. I think his writing is amazing, and I love the first two Max Paynes. They are a big part of me as a gamer, as a younger person. I will say the hard part I had with this is I don't play games like Max Payne anymore. I like playground games where I just make a character and get to like run around and do whatever I want.
Skyrim.
Skyrim, Monster Hunter World.
GTA.
GTA. I haven't played GTA in a long time, but yeah, GTA. Like stuff like that where I just get to like just go in and do whatever I want. So Max Payne's kind of a hard one for me to do. I think it's kind of a nostalgia pick. But if I'm making it today, it's not open world, even though every game seems to want to be open world when it's single player. As much as I would love a playground game where you get to John Woo everything, I don't think it works for this. I think you put it back in Remedy's hands and you let Sam Lake make a fourth one, and you let him do the story the way he wants to do it, and that's what I'd like to see. A little bit less of the super depressing motifs of the third one, which it's always super depressing with Max Payne, but like the third one was pretty freaking dark. Like by the time you get to the end, you're like, all right, well, I'm gonna go sit in a dark room for about 24 hours and try not to murder myself.
So it's like a Modern Warfare campaign.
It's about as close to a Modern Warfare campaign as I would play. Definitely. It's really, really dark, and I feel like Rockstar almost overcompensated for not having Sam Lake. They're like, well, it's got to be super fucking dark, so let's make it super. And it's rough. It's rough.
So like a Wolfenstein feel to it, or like the older Wolfenstein's feel to it.
Yeah. I mean, it's. So you didn't play any of them?
No, I played not any of the Max Paynes. No.
Okay. Well, they're good games. They're revolutionary in the fact that they were kind of like the first ones to do like a bullet time for shooters.
Mm-hmm.
And for
I've seen gameplay.
Yeah, they're great games. They're really fun games. I definitely recommend going back to them. And the original, the original Max Payne was only like, I want to say like 15 hours of play, not even. And the second one was only like 6 hours. Like they're easy games to get through and play. I would play them repeatedly. Just in a day, I would take an afternoon and go through them.
Were they $60?
They were. They're not anymore. They're not even close to anymore because they were original Xbox games.
Yeah.
But like, and I'm sure they're all backwards compatible and you can get them for super cheap. But kind of lost my thread. Oh, but the third one was very long and it kind of took him out of his comfort zone, which was fine. Like he wasn't still in New York. He goes to like Mexico and he becomes like private security, but like I mean spoilers for Max Payne 3, but everybody dies. I mean, and a lot of people die in the first two, but I feel like there was enough there was reasons for them to die.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Whereas in that third one, just like
they just killed people off, just kill them off.
I mean, spoilers, you spend the first half of the third game trying to rescue this girl just to watch her die.
Oh no. That's a slap in the face.
And I don't understand why. I don't get it. Like the point of her dying didn't help the storyline. Like she could have come out of it okay and it would have been, I think, a little bit better. Like stuff like that. Like you literally watch everybody die. And I feel like it's because they kind of like, well, Sam Lake made this really dark, depressing story, so we've got to do that. You know what I mean? So I would give it back to Sam Lake. I'd let him do a proper fourth one, and give us the Max Payne, experience that we had in the first place at least one more time. That's what I would do.
It sounds like really the way to go. Just get the storyline back on track.
Well, and like I said, it's not a bad game. It's not a bad storyline. I've played it many times. It's not. If you're ranking the three games, that one would always be the last for me. So the other one, the really crazy weird one, is I would bring back Dragon Force from the Sega Saturn.
Some Dragon Force, okay.
I've been wanting
way back in the day. All right.
Oh my god. All right, Sega Saturn. Anybody wants to look it up on the internet, it's a sad story. One of the many sad stories of Sega trying to compete with other systems and failing. But me and my brother got a Sega Saturn, and there was very few games for them because they failed so hard. Like, Sega Saturn was the thing that came out right before the Dreamcast, but like a year before. So like nobody bought the Saturn, and nobody even knew it was coming out. Like they announced it, and it was in stores. Like there was no hype around it. It just totally got bowled over by the other systems. But it had this game called Dragon Force. I urge anybody out there to go look up screenshots of it on the internet. The game, I actually still have my copy. It's so rare, it actually sells for $300 on eBay.
Holy crap.
Yeah. What this game was it's so hard to explain. It was a tactical war game, right? Okay. Like anime. You would fight your force against another force, like 50 to 100 Halo troops. Wars? Yeah, but only in the way that it's armies fighting armies. But instead of like a tactical like turn-based thing, you would set up a unit and move a unit against another unit, and it was side-scrolling. It looked like a brawler, okay? So like you would be on the field view and see your armies like run out and run into the other armies and fight each other. And the strategy of it was picking the formation in which your army charged their army. And then that's like sweet. Yeah, and then depending on how many guys got through, they would fight the general, and the general would fight him. It was the most fun. I can't tell you how many hours me and my brother played on this, going through each one. There was seven different like lands you could play as. We played every one of them all the way through, start to finish. It was just an amazing game. And I wish it would come back. And
so how would you bring that back?
How would I bring that back? Okay, I'd make it bigger, because we can do that now. I'd make it huge. I'd put more into I'd add city building aspects, which they didn't have. There was no city or siege building aspects. It was just all about the generals and the forces. One of the cool things in this game is when you defeated generals, you captured them, and then you could interrogate them, you could let them go, or you could try and get them to fight for you. Like, talk them into fighting for you. Which is great. I would put more of an emphasis on that social play, the political play of the game, which was really interesting. It was kind of a crazy thing. Like, you could have generals just suddenly decide, well, I've got 100 troops, I'm not going to fight for you anymore, and just jump ship to another thing. Like, stuff like that. And I would put that into it more. But other than that, I'd leave it the same. I'm telling you, Logan, look this up, because no game looks like this. Like, just, there's no game today, there was no game before it, that just looks like this.
So, do you think it would have too big of a competition against a game like Civilization Revolution?
No, I don't, because this is like the arcade version of that, in my opinion. Like, it also has the anime connotation, which I'm not big on anime shit, but it has like that kind of anime feel, and it's not, I don't know, I feel like the premise of it is unique enough on its own that it could support it, because there's just no strategy game that looks like this that I know of anyway. And in fairness, I don't play a ton of strategy games. If there is a strategy game out there that looks like Dragon Force, please, somebody put it in the comments, because I want to check it out and play it. But, yeah, that would be the game I bring back.
All right, so since you cheated and got two, okay, I'll bring back my cheat that defies a lot of these rules, and it's 2K11. NBA 2K11.
That defies all the rules. They're still making NBA games.
Exactly. We defied all those rules, and yeah, they're still making NBA, but 2K11 was so much fun. It was an arcade. It was horrible graphics, horrible gameplay, but it was just so much fun. It was so dumb.
You're preaching to the choir. My brother is always like, play the new hockey game with me. No fucking way. I still have a PlayStation 2. I pop in NHL 2002.
Yes.
See, I played that game until they ran out of draft orders.
That's the way to play. That's the way to play.
When you got a good game, like, that's the one. Like, especially with sports games. Like, I don't want to move on. I just want to keep playing this one.
Yep. That's the way to go.
Well, we're at 49 minutes. That means it's time for plugs and shameless promotions. Logan, you got anything to plug this week?
At night, Space 645. That's my YouTube for any highlights. I think I'll be posting sometime this week. And that'd be all. How about you, Zach?
I just posted a review on For Honor. I decided to go back, since there's not a ton of games coming out right now, I decided to go back to some of the games that have already been out for a while that I didn't get to review because I only started reviewing games about 4 months ago. So I urge people to check that out, even though it is my first time with Shotcut instead of the program I was using originally, and it took me all day to put it together, so I am very tired and I ramble a lot. It's extra horrible.
I tell you, though, just for your viewers, I watched that For Honor one, and it's really good. I gotta give you that.
Thanks. I appreciate that, man. I appreciate that.
I haven't played For Honor, but I feel like I got a pretty good overview of the game now.
You should definitely try it. I mean, if you get a chance to try it, it's a lot of fun. It's definitely, I think, as far as fighting games go, it's definitely would be your bag, like, in my opinion. But that's a conversation for another thing. So I'm going to wrap this up. Guys, this has been a horrible podcast. It's been terrible. It's been too long, and we're sorry about that. But we told you about it at the beginning. And as long as you guys keep listening to this, we will keep making it, hopefully weekly, or at least semi-weekly. So until next time, we'll talk to you later.